Hello, welcome and an excellent evening. And tonight we're having another Amiga 500. This here is a Ref 5 board that I got for testing purposes of a broken accelerator card that is still broken and I can't get a grip on that. So I'm putting that way back into the future if I can fix it at all. The board itself was just fine. I did two modifications though on here. I put in a ROM adapter so I could put in a diagram. So this is not original. The kick 1.3 that's on here is original. I just put a label on there so I don't misplace it because it doesn't say kick 1.3 on it. And also I put in the bodge to get the 7 MHz signal over to the edge connector to be able to use the Lazarus Storm, for example. Other than that, this is all stock and all working, which is nice. It has minimal corrosion on the expansion port due to a leaky battery, I guess, in its former life. But other than that, it's just working fine. I've got also the case for this thing. However, it's in pretty okay condition. And I've also got the keyboard, or a keyboard. This came without a keyboard. However, the keyboard has two issues. One is the heavily yellowed keys, and also it doesn't quite work. The keys mostly don't work, which is due to the carbonized rubber on the plungers being worn out, basically. I've already refurbished a Commodore +4 keyboard in a similar state, which didn't quite work with conductive ink. So we'll do the same here. We could try some retrobrighting, but this is so severely yellowed. I might just do it for fun and keep those keys as spares for other machines. But I've got a whole new set of key caps, basically, in black. And I've also got a black A500 case. So we will do a whole case replacement and keyboard refurbishment, which is, I think, quite nice. This thing also has a replacement membrane, which is not foil but printed circuit board, which is nice, I guess, but probably wasn't really the issue here. I think the issue with this one definitely was the plungers, that they have too high a resistance to make them register on the keyboard controller here. But in theory, this whole keyboard should work once we refurbish them a little bit. This is a Mitsumi keyboard, which is the only one that you can currently get replacement keycaps for. I will put a link in the video description, not sponsored, so I bought these myself. And I guess for the A500, the Mitsumi keyboards are the most common, but you might have a different one. So before you buy anything like that, check out which keyboard membrane and keyboard controller you've got. I think even the keyboard controller has to match. At least the layout is slightly different depending on the membrane that you have. There are, I think, reproductions for this keyboard controller as well. You will need the custom IC here, which is CSG branded on here, so from Commodore Semiconductors. But you could take it off another keyboard, I guess. So there's that. And there might be even complete replacements with a different controller or something. I mean, that's not rocket science here, but I haven't researched that. But what we'll do is we will take both of these boards, refurbish this one here, and put everything in a nice shiny black case, which also fits very well with the ACA 500 Plus, which I have currently put into a 3D printed black case. So it will make a nice pairing. The A500, to go back to it once more, still has a 8371 Agnes chip. This only supports 512 kilobytes of chip mem. The 8372A variant has become pretty rare and expensive, so I will stick with the 512K. The other A500 I have modded to an A372A with 1 megabyte of chip mem, because I thought I would be using WHD load quite a lot, and that usually requires 1 megabyte of chip for the kick ROM emulation and stuff like that. But regarding the fact that I now have an ACA 500 Plus, I don't think I need it, because all the OCS games basically all run on 512K of chip, and all the OCS demos as well. And the ACA 500 Plus supports running off original Kick 1.3 and going into stealth mode and all that, so I don't need any of the WHD load emulation kind of stuff. So I don't think we have any reason to replace the Agnes here, which is a nice thing. So yeah, we can do that. Incidentally, this is a relatively late Rev 5, I would say, because all the chips on here are already CSG labeled, and they are from 1989, except for the Gary, it's a bit older, from 1987. And the Denise as well, it's 1987, but most of the chips here are 1989. So I think this is probably one of the very last things on here. Alright, so let's get to work. Alright, let's take this apart. If you've never done that, there is a metal shield on the backside, which has tons of screws in there originally. However, I already taken this apart before, so I put in only a minimal amount of screws. One here in the middle, and make sure not to lose them because they are tiny. And I think I've put in 2 screws here for the little controller PCB. So we'll also take that apart. I think there are slightly longer screws in there due to the thickness of the second PCB. And there's also a shield which you have to save because it prevents anything from shorting out on the RF shield of the Amiga. Then we've got the main keyboard here, and we got the replacement keyboard matrix, which is this here, which is totally fine and brand spanking new. So we'll leave that as it is. Actually, we can put this whole thing to the side for now because it's just fine. And I think, yeah, we might want to check underneath. There are some wires. Not sure if there should be something to help this not short out due to the wires. I might put something down. I have to check if this should come with another shield. However, what we can do is take apart everything else and especially redo these little plungers here. Let's have a look at those. Get some light up here. These are the little plungers. There's carbonized rubber here. And definitely don't lose any of these plungers. And we will dip them into conductive ink or paint them a little bit. And that should do the trick, I guess. That will be quite a long journey. And I will remove all the keycaps as well, which is also a slightly annoying process. Yeah, and we'll check out the keycaps that we got brand new. Let me fetch those. These are the brand new Amiga keycaps, manufactured by A1200.net. They also make cases, as I said. Here are some replacement thingies that keep these metal brackets in place, which is nice. Then there are all new springs in different sizes, because these here might be too soft or something. So we'll probably also use those. I will save the old ones, obviously. There are 2 different space bars depending on your keyboard configuration, I guess. And then there's even more of these holders, clips, whatever. And then there's a ton of different keycaps, 2 different enter keys or return keys. And I wonder how we will get these off. Probably somehow by poking in there, or interesting. Well, I figured it out. Ah yes, this is how it works. Yeah, so the clips need to be put in here, plus the metal retainer. So yeah, we will do that eventually, but I'll leave this on for now. There's also some other alternatives for some things, like the second delete key, which probably belongs somewhere. Yeah, interesting enough, the 4 and 5 are here, the F and J are there. Well, that's quite interesting, because I think they have a different rounding for touch typing, and 2 more shift keys. Seems to be some spares. Yeah, that's nice. So that'll come back in a minute. But first I will remove all the keycaps from this one here and save all the plungers so that they are not lost and we can refurbish them. I will do a little time lapse for this, because this will take quite some time. Oh, the wonders of technology. My phone did stop recording after a minute or so, why ever that was the case. But I've got it all off without breaking anything, I think. We will need to salvage this metal bracket here, or retainer clip, or whatever you call it, for the enter or return key. And I will clean the dust off this real quick in a minute. And let's have a look what we harvested. Basically, we've got 3 cups full of things, a lot of springs. There's also one little LED for the caps lock that we'll have to save. We'll need that again, but you can replace that as well. That's not a big issue. Here are the plungers that we'll recoat with conductive paint in a minute, and this one is also for the caps lock. So that one is a bit special. Not even sure if it's, yeah, it has a slightly different outline, so yeah, that is definitely different. These I will put away. I will store them as replacement. There should also be, I think, 2 smaller ones for the spacebar, but if not, I will save these. And since it's sunny outside, I will try to retrobright these anyway, just for the fun of it. Should be easy enough. And yeah, let's go back and actually clean this and reinstall everything, basically, which will also take some time, and I'll try to do a proper time lapse this time. Alright, that's all the plungers done. I'll let them sit here for a while and let them dry. If you're interested, I was using this MG Chemicals Carbon Conductive Pen 838ARP. However, I can't really recommend it, at least in the pen form. It's the cheapest variant of MG Chemicals 838AR conductive ink, but you have to put it inside of a little container and put some isopropyl alcohol for to make it not dry up so quickly. And then you can just simply paint each of the little, come on, focus, these little rubber plungers. You can see a little shine here, which is where the ink came on. We can have a quick test later as well on the resistance with a multimeter. So, and make sure to do this in a well-ventilated room, because this has like yeah, all kinds of nasty chemicals in there to make it soluble, and wear some protective gloves, obviously. Yeah, that is the way I replenish these, because they are not available anymore. Okay, next step, after the drawing, put the whole keyboard back together with the new keycaps. All right, here we have 3 of the refurbished rubber plungers, let's call them something like that. And if I measure across the plunger, I get roughly 150 ohms for this one, and roughly 160 ohms for this one. And this one here 180. So they vary between 150 and 200 ohms, let's say, which I think is okay. That's definitely better than they were before. I think before they were more than 300 ohms, and it was the same with the +4, and they might not be perfect, but they will be much better than before, and I think that will do nicely. I will fetch the keyboard matrix and the plastic thingy, and we can get going. All right, the question is now, how do we put this stuff into place? And there's a little bit of water still left here, and I'm gonna wipe this away. This is the place for the backspace key, and let's have a look. Oh, the brackets are coming off. Store them here at the side, and the plunger goes in at the back just very simply like this. You have to keep your finger on that to not have it fall off. And then you can take, for example, the backspace key and carefully and very gently push it down. And there's our first key. Basically all the other keys work the same way, except for the large ones where you will have to use the plastic retainers and the metal brackets and do that. But I will do a time lapse again, because this will take probably an hour or something. So let's get started right away. Very quick look at this. I've got the first row plus the escape key, and yeah, it feels quite nice. There's still quite a bit of grime from the past 30 years or so of usage, or not usage on this keyboard, but nobody will see that. And the black keys look absolutely wonderful, I must say. And one advantage is also they will not have the yellowing that the beige keys had. So I think these might last even longer than the original keys, hopefully. But time will tell. So I'm gonna continue with the rest of the rows. And yeah, it definitely takes some time. You might have noticed I've struggled with the tab key because it is the first one with the metal latch that I installed. I haven't found a good way to do that yet. It is in here, it is working, I presume, but I'm not sure how you're supposed to do this with these tiny little plastic holders. It's just super finicky to get in there because you need to get the bracket, the metal bracket, the plastic brackets and the springs aligned and get the keycap on top of that. So yeah, that's something. And it's done. I'm going to be very curious if this will work. There's one screw hole that is worn out, so I have to leave it off, but all the other screws are in. The little PCB is back in. I didn't put anything in between the metal shield and the PCB, so if the wires short out, I will have to open it up again and will have to build something out of paper or a lot of Captain tape to make it not short out, but we'll see. You can actually test here on the edge connector with the multimeter, press a few keys to see if you see something happening. But much easier is probably if I just hook this up to the Amiga mainboard that we had there and see if it works. But maybe we'll also put the Amiga mainboard into its original case, or not in the original, in the new black case. So let's have a look at that. Here's the case. It hardly fits into view. Let me see if I can zoom out a bit. Yes. It looks great. The only thing is that I don't have a badge, so I need to get one from somewhere. There is some kind of double-sided tape or something, maybe for this purpose, because the case that I got is an old, slightly marbled due to my bad retrobrighting skills one, and it doesn't have any badge either here, so I think you can get badges like that somewhere, but I have to check where. But either way, let's quickly get the screws out and then we can put in the Amiga. First without the trapdoor expansion, but I also have a suitable 512K without real-time clock, because my ACA 500 Plus already has an RTC. And strictly speaking, the ACA isn't totally, the 512K expansion isn't totally necessary, because I think the ACA can also do that. But it's nice to have the Amiga in such a condition that we have 512K anyway. There are two screws missing, sort of, which belong to the floppy, but all the other screws are here. There is also kind of a plastic thingy to cover something. I think that's the eject button. That's the eject button of the disk drive. That's nice. There's also this thing, probably for an Ethernet jack or something. And another cover for, I'm not exactly sure, because this is the side port expansion cover, so not quite sure where this is belonging. Oh, okay, it's for this year. This is for installing a Raspberry Pi, I guess, or something. So I probably will not do that. So I will put in the other thing. Yeah. So let's clean up a bit and get this thing in place. And here is the final assembled Amiga 500 in all black edition, basically, with the ACA 500 Plus in a 3D printed case attached to the side expansion port. And I think this actually matches quite nicely. There is a case for printing online that is more angled. However, I have the real-time clock module in there. So I changed this case to be more rectangular, let's say. And yeah, but you can print either one. The other one is a bit more matching to the wedge shape of the Amiga 500. And if you don't have the ACA 500 or similar, you can put on, of course, the expansion cover door and have everything nicely sealed. The keyboard also looks pretty nice. I think I already said that the Mitsumi hybrid keys are not the greatest, and as you've seen, the carbon ink is definitely necessary, or similar refreshment methods. There are also people who use a little bit of fine grit sandpaper to sand down the topmost layer to get a bit more to the conductive inner parts. But you can still do that if the ink doesn't work, for example. But you can, of course, only refresh those rubber stamps that often by sanding them down, because they will get shorter and shorter every time until there's nothing left. So that's a bit a matter of taste. Let's have a look at the other side. In the meantime, the badge for the case also arrived, made by Badgeman, with a nice gel coating on top and this rainbowy, silvery backdrop. I think this looks very nice. There is also a seller in the UK who sells metal badges with a brushed metal look, but with import duties this was a bit too expensive, so I took Badgeman's offer, and it's, while not being super cheap, it's still a nice touch, I think, and without a badge I think this wouldn't look just the same. The white knob I'm gonna leave for now. I'm thinking about painting it, but actually it doesn't bother me too much, and I wanted to keep the floppy drive as intact as possible. If you're lucky, you have a slightly different variant of floppy drive, and the supplied button, the black button, will fit. But either way, yeah, pretty nice. The enter key is working fine now. The space key is a bit weird. It doesn't, if you press on the side, it won't really work. So this is, I'm not sure if it's down to the manufacturing of the spacebar or the bad quality of this Mitsumi hybrid style keyboard anyway. And the shift key is still very much only half working on this side. The left one is fine. So I need to reapply more ink or sand down a little bit of the plunger. Same with the star key here, or asterisk, has the same issue. So I guess those two plungers are pretty worn out and need to be refreshed more. This year I don't care much about, because I will almost never use it. The shift key is a bit annoying because you need that. All the other keys that I've used so far are pretty fine. So yeah, still I wish there was a mechanical keyboard replacement with modern keycaps. that will of course be even more expensive than the $70 or something that the keycap set here is. But I think in the end this thing really looks nice, and we're using this machine actually for gaming, playing currently a bunch of Sierra games on the Amiga 500, and it's a lot of fun, and it's really looking nice and shiny. And now let's turn the machine around once more and look at the backside. So the backside looks as expected. You have the joystick ports, the first one is also for the mouse, and the audio out ports, disk drive, which I use for my Gotek. Paired with the A500 Plus, I don't even need a floppy switcher, which I had in my other A500, or I still have in my other A500, because the A500 Plus allows you to boot also from DF1, even with Kickstart 1.3, which is very nice. The serial port, I've attached a MIDI interface there for the Roland MT32. This will be featured in another video in the future. Parallel port is currently unused, but you can hook up like a Wi-Fi device or something. Power is obvious. RGB video is used to attach to the 1084 or the Philips CM8833. And you have this door here, which you can use for installing, I don't know, an HDMI port or Ethernet port or whatever. Currently unused on this machine. So yeah, looks pretty neat with the grill here. It actually reminds me a bit of the +4 design language. But that's it for today. You have seen the transformation of a quite yellowed, white-ish, beige Commodore Amiga 500 into a black beauty, so to speak. And I've taken the keycaps and actually retrobrighted them, let it sit for a whole day out on the porch there with a lot of sun actually, and hydrogen peroxide. And while there is still a bit of a yellowing, the keys actually have turned out quite nicely. But still, as I didn't get any other white case, I thought it's very much looking much better with the black things. I think it fits very nicely, but it's of course a matter of taste. I will definitely be keeping these keys if something breaks on my other Amiga, or I find maybe a third one with keys missing or something. It's very useful to have these still, even with the new options in there. And my hope still would be that a mechanical keyboard is somewhere in the future for the A500s, because to be honest, the Mitsumi keyboards are pretty much rubbish. Mitsumi also did mechanical key switches with the same kind of square hole where you put the keycaps on. That would be compatible with these keycaps, and A1200.net did have a prototype keyboard shown off a couple of years back using those switches. But those switches are also out of production. In contrast to, for example, Cherry key switches with a little cross that you use for attaching the keycaps. So I don't think that will ever likely see the light of day. Another option would be to use the existing molds with a different key stem, basically in the cross shape, and build a Cherry keyboard. Maybe that's somewhere in the future. I don't know. Would be nice, because the Amiga is a very great machine, but the keyboards are actually pretty crummy, and it's getting harder to keep them in a working order. So having an option for like the next 20 years would be very nice, to be able to keep these machines running even longer, if anybody's interested in that. I can certainly say I am pretty interested in watching demos, for which you don't need that much of a keyboard anyway, but also playing games and doing fun stuff on the Amiga. So I am very happy how the whole machine turned out. And if you're interested, I will put a link to the A1200 website in the video description. Of course, nothing sponsored or something. And it's still a bit of a costly upgrade, but I think for this machine it was definitely worth it. And we're going to use this a lot of time, I think. But I think that's it, and be sure to share your Amiga stories down in the comments, like and subscribe, the usual stuff. Join me on Patreon if you want, and if not, just hope to see you in the next video, and so long. Bye.